Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, once again. I'm just going to continue from the two topics what we were discussing earlier and what Dr. Devish said. Before I start, I want you to join congratulating Sindhu as a new chair for Nasscom GCC Council. So she has taken for the next 2 years, and she's taken from Puneet Sood, who is also here. Puneet would like to stand up. Puneet Sood is the past chair. These are the people who have been shaping this industry for all these years, and what we want to talk about is, while things are doing good, etc., the three areas we'll focus on. If there is anything else you'd like to ask, you can certainly ask. Three areas out to focus on. A is on leadership, and secondly is on, I have my collar mic, I forgot. One is on leadership, second is earning the trust quotient, and third, important role of the GCC leaders to be the brand advocacy managers, right? Brand managers. The question one to any one of you, as a conversation, like look at this, both of you have been doing an global roles. Are you seeing a differentiated skills that we possess or don't possess that needs to be improved on to truly stand out and make us relevant in the leadership equity way? When I say leadership equity, that is, when you see a foreign leader coming in, there is an associated aura, associated trait, associated personality, associated DNA. When you're managing global leadership team across the country, perhaps a part of the team with you in India, how do we demonstrate that global aura, global leadership is what? Question one is. Your thought, Ranjan. You've been managing multiple countries, etc. What has been your experience to deal with leadership equity?
So first of all, really delighted to be here. My first.
Close the mouth.
Oh, okay. First of all, really pleased to be here. My first GCC summit, and KSV, thank you for inviting me. The previous session was quite eye-opening, right? So Sindhu made a joking comment saying, about the heart. But for me, it was quite eye-opening that the next time somebody says, "I gave you my heart," I won't ask them artificial or your natural heart. So he basically de-romanticized giving your heart to people. But on a serious note, there is so much of leadership essence that we got from there, KSV. And this is a very important question. I think in my mind, the two things that we as GCCs need to get out of is one, this hangover of foreign leaders being better leaders. And that's a confidence that we Indian leaders need to continue to build. And the second part is this whole concept of a parent organization. Every time I hear somebody say, "Oh, it's a parent organization," no, it's the same organization. And now the GCCs that are coming up in the last few years, they don't see these centers as, or the good ones, they don't see these centers as a box somewhere which is owned by somebody else and I am the parent. As long as we will continue to have that association of I somehow being either subservient or junior or lesser, we will never be able to contribute to the
but
larger.
Have we stood up? Are we there to say that, yes, my voice matters?
Yes.
What would you recommend to the two skills required to do that?
And absolutely. So this is I just got out my two pet peeves out of the way. So 2 weeks back, I had my leadership meet, KSV. So I run, as you know, 9 centers in 7 countries for PepsiCo. And by direct reports, we met in Cairo 2 weeks back for 3 days of planning, etc. And the room had 10 nationalities in it. You cannot operate in a global leadership framework with one mindset of one style of working. But at the same time, the essence of, or the commonalities across cultures, authenticity, relevance, directness, honesty, these are important, very consistent metrics. Now, if you think about it, Mexico, Egypt, and India, 3 centers that I run, very energetic, very enthusiastic, very positive, always smiling, always going the extra mile, always trying to do something.
That's because they're drinking Pepsi every day.
But that, the colleagues in Poland also drink Pepsi every day. But there, they are more reserved. In, say, Poland or a Russian market, people are more reserved. They trust you a bit later. So you have to earn their trust. In China, it's more hierarchical. So I know I'm stereotyping a little bit here, But as leaders who are going to become global leaders, we have to learn to flex our operating style. We have to learn to respect, and we have to learn to be authentic. I'm sure we'll dig deeper into this topic, but this is my initial thought.
It's a great point. Sindhu, from your side, you've been nurturing a lot of young leaders. What is it you observe in young leaders be nurtured? Reason I'm asking this is more and more and more global enterprise leaders whom I meet in the country when they come in here, what they are seeking for is an ability to take ownership, ability to demonstrate I can do it. And the general joke which says is when an average Indian leader says I'll do it, perhaps he means maybe. When he says maybe I'll do it, a sure shot is not going to happen. When he says I will try, that means not going to happen. Somewhere those cultures have crept in. How do you work with your young leaders, build them to take more ownership?
Maybe before I answer that question, I'll go back
Yeah.
to one point you made, Priya, that is about building the trust. I think at the core of everything that we do, we have to build the trust. Of course, maturity levels in organizations differ. Some of us are even more mature. Some of us are on the curve. But across those maturity levels, foundation for driving things forward, be it in terms of ownership, be it in terms of delivering innovation, be it in terms of building products from here for the world out there, has to be based on trust. And I think that trust is the currency that we carry forward, be it with headquarters, be it with our customers, be it with our partners, be it with the entire ecosystem. And going back to your point on young leaders, yes, everybody has the drive to do more and get things done, but building trust also takes time, right? And this is something that we have to make conscious efforts to also build it into the core of the DNA of our young, budding, striving, thriving talent, that it takes time to build trust. It's not just done in a day or a month or a year's time, right? And that, I think, is at the core of the culture that we've been kind of nurturing in the organization, KSV, to really help our young engineers who come in to work. And every team that you see, right, always has a good kind of a mix when it comes to young talent, senior talent. So that mix also helps to build that, right? And to be able to consistently deliver, have that right focus when it comes to planning, committing to what you really mean, not maybe. That I think is also an important piece of the equation.
That is right, that commitment. The reason I'm asking is, many of the leaders present here, perhaps both of you too, either you're part of the team which globally spread, or your managing teams globally spread, etc. So you have, I know many leaders present in this room have now taken ownership of developing digital solutions for the parent enterprises from India with the distributed team. Managing distributed team is an art. It's an art. If we can give some throw lights, your experience, how you have been managing your distributed teams.
Just go back to Sindhu's point. I'll just add one more. I mean, there are so many upcoming leaders in the room, so this is for you. And I wish somebody gave me this advice 10 years back, 15 years back. You will find a lot of technologists whenever you are looking for talent. We are finding great talent who understand digital, who understand technology, who understand the latest tool. I think the gap that's holding us back, and I'm sure we'll dig deeper into it again, what's holding GCCs back today is the ability to find leaders who also understand business. So if you are coming up the curve, if you are learning and going up the corporate ladder, my strong recommendation to you is don't get married, don't get wedded to one technology. Learn the business. Learn how your company makes money. Learn what the challenges your company is facing. And then you'll be able to apply whatever digital, whatever technology you know or you need to learn to solve those problems. Technology doesn't exist in vacuum. You can have gazillions of patents, but if you can't solve the problems like we heard or saw earlier today, then there is no point having that technology. So please, as you come up, please start thinking about business. Please start learning about how your company makes money, and then you'll of course help GCC scale up further. On managing the global teams, KSV, integrity is very important. And you were jokingly making that comment. if we don't do what we promise, you will not be successfully be able to manage a global team. Because styles, nature, outlook may vary, but respect for integrity, respect for commitment, respect for talent is consistent around the world. I mean, can anybody raise your hand and say, oh, I love this person who has no integrity. Oh, I love this person who doesn't do what they promise. No. And that's something that, as global leaders, we need to walk the talk, deliver the promise, be, true to our word, whatever way you say this. I think that's the one skill that I really try to practice every day.
Yeah, other question also, it may be good to know in your organization too. Are you seeing an increasing global leadership role and global leadership role coming to your company? What makes it come? I know, for example, a large financial services company, they had 2 managing directors, perhaps a decade back. They have close about 17 managing directors now, reflecting the growth of one of the growth indications. Are those indications, or are there any other indication which is there? Or as I said, there's a retail company which is doing phenomenal work, the home furniture area. The entire digital innovation piece, the leadership, has been given to the leader here to manage it globally. So they have earned it. So are there any indicators say that I'm now ready to accept global roles? And if the indicators are there, what are they?
I think it goes back into the nature of the portfolio that you manage as well, right? I mean, if I just take
In
the
SAP
context, KSV, actually we are the only location where we have the entire breadth of our product portfolio in one location. So what that translates into is when we go across the portfolio, when we think about driving integration across our lines of business or cross-application analytics or a consistent user experience, that kind of portfolio is clearly, there's a no-brainer that's coming out of India. The ownership, the product leadership, the product management, everything is happening out of India for the world. Why? Because we're building on the strength that we already have, right? We have, be it from, if you look at processes like a lead to cash or a total workforce or a design to operate or strategic sourcing or procurement, that all can be managed when we talk about also infusing AI into the core of our business processes happening here. So it's not that happened 10 years back, that's happening now because it took time for the portfolio ownership to also shift to India. Today, 40% of our global R&D is happening here. What also adds to that ownership is the market is also changing. Today, India is the fastest growing market for us. So in that sense, it makes absolute sense to have the product leadership and ownership as well here because you're serving the customers here as well, right? And if you're saying that that's your fastest growing region in APJ with Japan and India being the fastest among it, there's no doubt and there is no question why it shouldn't be complemented with the right ownership as well.
Are you in agreement with the argument when people say cost is important, scalable talent is important, we have to focus on leadership capability from India in terms of ownership is important. If you have to identify based on your experiences, can each of you share about one or two skills, key skills that's required that will demonstrate leadership from India? Because people are now coming, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sincerely saying, more and more enterprises are coming to start looking for leadership requirement for 5 years. 15 years back, we demonstrated cost efficiencies. 10 years back, we demonstrated our enterprise scalable talent for the satellite office capable distribution to you. Today, we have to demonstrate leadership. We are not there yet. I could be making this statement provocatively, but if you were to say that if you have to demonstrate leadership, what are the 4 indicators we should be demonstrating? What do you suggest to the group? Sindhu.
I mean, first and foremost, product management skills. I think this is an absolute no-brainer if you ask me. You have to build that pipeline of product leaders in your organization. You have to make conscious efforts to make sure that you nurture that product leadership because, I mean, we have a lot of young talent joining us, right? And to your point that you made earlier, it's not just about knowing about, hey, I know the latest in AI or ML or prompt engineering or whatever it is that comes up, but it's also about how do we look at products, how are products built, how do you take those products to market, the whole go-to-market commercialization of products, how are we working with the ecosystem, because the way you position a product to a stakeholder, your investor or an analyst would look completely different from how you would position it to your customer, right? So core product management skills, I think, is absolutely non-negotiable if you're talking about product ownership.
Hey, just before I proceed, I do see about a lot of people standing. There are 7 or 8 seats in the front. If those of you would love to come, unless you love to be in the back, you may like to come. There is some seats available. I don't want to see you standing there, please. Please come into the front, if you can. Right in the front. First row is reserved for you. Please come. Please come. Okay, the second question is, do you often hear the challenges of global leadership expectation and your local solutioning capabilities? They pose a problem. Expectation is there, but would you like to innovate in finding a local solution? Are you finding a mismatch, or it is normally an yes sir and align yourself and go?
But first, let's understand why are these roles coming to India, right? First, the availability of talent. There is no other place in the world where pick up any skill set. I mean, data scientists. If you want to hire 100 data scientists, even for a Fortune 50 company, there is no other place in the world where you can do that in a year. So availability of talent, of course, is a reason. But the bigger point that Sindhu was also mentioning is India as a market is becoming more and more important for more and more organizations. And that customer empathy, customer sensitivity, understanding of what's happening, that's what they're coming here for. But the risk and the downside of this is, and something that we need to solve for, many large organizations traditionally have had people joining as management trainee everywhere in the world and then build a career over 20, 25 years. I mean, you yourself are a great example. And then you go through commercial, supply chain, development, all kind of various critical experiences, and then one day you become the CEO of that company. When these critical roles are now moving to India and other countries in our network, our concern is, where will we get our next GMs from? Because our next GMs have to come from internal talent pool.
I'll tell you, I like to argue with you. What I hear often, when I'm sure many leaders are experiencing this problem too, when more and more innovative roles comes to India, not the CEO level, not CEO -1 level, at CEO -2 and CEO -3, they develop paranoia. The job they're supposed to innovate is now moving away from them, and they don't like you. They don't like you for many reasons, but what they should be doing as a right is now coming here. The ability of leader here to maneuver the no say is there, to be part of the team is important, which we don't do. The moment we get a good job, we say, hey, Sabash, we got it away. How do we get that hangover out?
I have a very strong point of view on this one. Very strong point of view. Is one, I do not agree with the characterization that you just made, but I know you are provoking us to get something out of us. We have to make sure that we don't behave as an island.
Correct.
As long as we will say that, this is our India center,
correct,
or this is our GBS, GCC, GIC, pick a name center, you will always create a us versus them. But if you talk impact, if you talk value, if you talk the outcomes that you are driving from here, who in the world does not like outcomes? But people do not like confrontation. And then the moment you create these boxes, parent organization, mothership, things like that, this 1940. We have to get out. This is 2023 now. We have to think about one enterprise. We talk about one PepsiCo all the time. There is nothing that a Hyderabad team or a Cairo team does or a Mexico team does that purchase cannot do, and the other way around. So it's one talent pool, one outcome pool, and one team. And truly we live that. So I don't agree with that characterization.
It boils down to culture in the organization.
This is one culture.
Yeah, one
absolutely.
Culture. Doesn't matter which part of the world you go to. That culture is real.
Yeah. I'm just going to pause here. I know we're short of mic. Any comments from anyone of you on what the leaders are saying that we should be thinking? Either you have to scream or I had to see a mic can reach you, or you can come in the front. I'll repeat that question. Yeah. And any mic very... There's one mic there. Puneet can help you. Introduce yourself and ask. Yeah.
Okay, my name is Sindhu Gangadharan and I'm a Senior Vice President with Thrive Digital. And possibly letting the cat amongst
You have to make it
pigeons.
brief if you don't mind. Be brief in your questions.
Absolutely. I was introducing myself, sir. So you talked about the parent and the child and everything else. But then what about the point when the GCCs want to become independent entities in themselves, right? Like, for instance, you would have built significant capability in the entire PepsiCo tech space, right? And you could pretty much become the cradle of innovation and an independent company in itself. So where does that fledging point come? When companies either are happy with the parent connection, the big giant family that's providing for everything, or want to become possibly larger than parents. I've spent time across companies which actually did that fledging and kind of pivoted and became very large. So how does one play that? Either you stick in a joint family and you're taking the entire parent lineage connection, or you want to go fledge and build something of your own yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because in fact we support that big time, because there are many ideas that are coming in from the organization, from our people. In fact, that's even a kind of a dedicated innovation process that we run to nurture some of the ideas that are coming bottom up. And many times these ideas may not immediately have a link back into the core portfolio. So actually we nurture them, we invest into them. There's an investment arm that funds them as well to help them go out there and run on their own. So that's even a model that we totally want to support even more, right? So I'm just reflecting on the state at SAP, but
for us, we are very new. This is not a thought that has come to our mind yet. But our industry is full of enterprises, third-party companies, which started as a captive, which started as a GCC.
Don't use the word captive.
Started as a captive.
No,
right?
even then.
Yeah. So, so at some point, when the enterprise ambition is exceeded by the availability of talent or the capability that you build, then you tend to monetize it. I think that journey is an organic journey. People will have to take that call. But right now, we are busy building something for PepsiCo, and we are very happy with what we have built and what we are going to build.
The next question I would like to take on is the expected role of a leader is the role being played as in brand advocacy. Brand advocacy. What I mean in that is, no, you're exempted from this, because every company's aspiration in the world to be as a tech company, SAP, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, that kind. Where I'm just picking up example, my friends are sitting there, whether say JP Morgan or Morgan Stanley or say Goldman Sachs, even say Pepsi, etc. They would love to see capabilities from you as a cool tech company. Would love to do it. And the expectation is build a cool tech company, which perhaps in the home country they cannot build the competing forces. How important is for the leader to be a brand advocacy for the brand? Because you may be a great brand globally. When you come and set up a technology capability center, you are just one more place for a young boy or a girl to look for a job. You being a brand ambassador makes a thing. I know Sindhu does a lot of great jobs. So importance of being a brand ambassador, brand advocacy for leadership develop. What is the constraint? How do you overcome the constraint? We can hear a perspective. That will be good.
We could spend all afternoon answering the various questions that you have, because they are very important questions. I would say the role of a leader is to build two things: reputation and culture. Reputation is what attracts associates to your organization, and culture is what keeps them with you. So I, as a leader, and I'm sure the other leaders around will agree with me, our core focus, my core focus is only on these two things: culture and reputation. So I agree with you. But the other point you made about companies wanting to be digital or tech companies, no, that's not true. Because for us, digital is a way to serve my consumer. We are in the business of generating smiles. I mean, every time somebody consumes one of our products, what's the emotion you associate? A smile. People are happy when people indulge and people
say a lot of sugar.
Yeah, that causes it sometimes. So people need sugar in their lives. If you don't have sugar, you don't have excitement. And then what's the difference between you and this chair? But anyway, that's the other point. So we are in the business of creating smiles. Digital is a way to do that. Digital is a way, or technology is a way to reach my consumer.
So are you saying aspiration to develop yourself as a cool tech company is
No.
important?
Yeah.
But let not be the by-ons, by all that.
Yeah. My cool tech is to serve my consumer. I do not want to be a cool tech company. My cool tech should make my consumers access us easy. So whether you are a bank, your cool tech should be able to help your consumer engage with you in 10 seconds rather than having to go somewhere else to, but I don't want to speak for them. But for me, it's access, it's enjoyment, it's new flavors. Now, one of the things we did in our GCC in India, our team created a flavor for a Doritos back in Brazil. And this is an amazing story someday we'll get to tell. Now that's the business we are in. So yeah, I would say that.
Any comments on anybody on the importance of brand versus what he's talking about? Anyone would like to make any comment? If not, Sindhu, your comments.
I think I may build on what Priya, you already mentioned, right? One more very important thing for us as a product organization is that we want to make sure that the best talent out there comes and works for us. This is very important. So which means we have, if I just look at SAP, 99 of the top companies in the world run on SAP. But how does a talent out there understand what does it mean that they run SAP? So it's a job of the leader to make sure that we break that down. What does it mean when we talk about that cool marriage between business and technology? Because that's something that we pride for. And that is something that is the role of the leader to make sure that people understand, because a big part of a product company is getting the right talent, but also helping that right talent stay on, work on some of the coolest innovations that will help businesses like Pepsi run on SAP even better.
So essentially we are saying, if I am concluding you well, I am expecting both of you also have the voice of the rest of the people. There is a disappearing act of us and them is happening. It is all conjointed at the hip. So there's nothing called us and them. Don't call it mothership, parentship, whatever it is. It's us, is us. If we get that culture imbibe is important. Are you also necessarily saying from a common HR practice, of course, pay salary being different, have a common practices, there's one Pepsi, one SAP Lab, one Morgan Stanley, one JP Morgan, that kind of environment you create is important to build the future capabilities. Perhaps, Puneet and I have been discussing this for some time. Should we stop calling ourselves as Global Capability Center? GCC, think through and different name altogether. What is required is perhaps one thought. Any suggestion from audience now or subsequently, please send it to Sukanya or I. If there is a need for a nomenclature that will bring the new culture for us to be reflecting to the enterprise. I was about to use parent enterprise. Okay, enterprise. That is one which is required. And secondly, building the capabilities in terms of creating that experience, right? Creating experience. We would love to work with all of you, with your with your enterprises, with enterprise leaders. Let me change. So when I joined the industry, I was using the ugly word starting with C. I had to correct myself, do not use the word C, it prevent others from using the word C. Right? So I'll also stop using the word P. P enterprise, let's call the enterprise, right? If we were to do a survey, to do an NPS, the last survey we did 5 years back, all the GCCs and GBS put together at negative 28% as an NPS score. At N level, it was plus 65. N minus 1 level is plus 28. The moment you go to N minus 1 level, N minus 2, it drops and they're large in number. So perhaps there's an opportunity to win on heart and soul or that N minus 2, N minus 3 level, but they don't see part of the global leadership team coming. So what is it required to build it up is 3 skills. And last, what you're saying is, we at Nasscom are working with leaders to create not yet, it's still in the drawing board stage. If there's of interest to all the GCs participating, let us know. Can we create perhaps a cohort of developing maturity skills, leadership skills at mid-level and top level, get leaders to coach and mentor. What does it take to be a responsive leader in the global environment? If there's an interest, raise hands. We'll be working with that. Is that something we should all focus on to raise our leadership capabilities to become a large trust quotient in the years to come? Is it an important thing we should do? Raise hand if it is one. Man, we got the answer. So let's do it. So leadership is what we should focus on, so that our aspirations to add, we added 75 GCCs last year. We want to double that years to come. Let's build on leadership. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Big hand to Sindhu. And
Thank you, KSV. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
For more content on tech and leadership, subscribe to Nasscom YouTube channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.